What do you know? It's another Tuesday night, not consecutive. Last Tuesday I was off. I was actually out of town last Tuesday. But hey guys, thanks for tuning in tonight. I greatly appreciate it. I think this might be one of those nights that I might make a few people cry. They're gonna maybe be so angry, tears are gonna be coming out of their eyes. So this will be this will be kind of fun. This is all kind of reactionary from the video I posted on Monday about basically the five most overrated bourbons. Now, again, it's all subjective, and I knew in making the video, and actually I wasn't even overly aware of how many of one particular distillery I had in the video until I kind of got into the thing a little bit. So that was not by design at all, and the point of it was not to kind of crap on any one particular distillery or anything like that, because that's never the intention. But it's to try to bring a little bit of, I guess, light and more understanding to, I guess, why some of these bourbons are so, overrated or whatever it may be. So I wanted to kind of get into a little bit of that, tonight, and kind of go through some of those things and just kind of shed a little bit of light on all of that. And that's why I kind of wanted to do tonight's live stream, with some of this stuff. So before we kind of dive into it, I know there are a few people in here, and like right now tonight, like everybody under the sun, it looks like is doing a live stream. So man, back in the day, I picked Tuesday nights because nobody else did Tuesday nights. Well, apparently everybody else is doing Tuesday nights again, I guess. I don't know. So we'll see what happens with this thing tonight. So um would expect probably some viewership to be down a little bit tonight with everybody going. So but anyway, so let's see. Let me just say hi to a few people that were in here right away. Looks like Top Dog was number one in here. Roger Reese following in pretty pretty quickly after Top Dog. So good to see Roger and John in here. Mr. Travis, how you doing? How you doing, brother? Good to see you as always. What else we got here? Mr. Eric Mays, good to see you, buddy. Hopefully you guys are doing well. Been a little while since I've seen Eric, but always nice when we kind of bump into each other. So, Mr. Roy R. Walks, Roy, hopefully you're doing well, buddy. Kind of living down there in Sunshine State of good old Florida. So good to see you, Bourbon lover. Cheers, buddy. Good to see you as always. Appreciate that. What else we got here? There's Sugar Kitty. How you doing, Sugar Kitty? Good to see you again, as always. So, all right, let's kind of dive into this thing a little bit. So, anyway, that was again my reaction to for tonight was really from the video that was posted on Monday, and kind of again just reiterate. This is all my opinion, guys. You all know this. So, it's one of those things where you know I'm not going to tell anybody what to buy, how to buy it, any of that stuff, how to spend your money. That's your hard-earned money. You spend it on it exactly what you want. But let's kind of dive into this thing a little bit. This again is going to be reaction. I actually took a few screenshots of some comments that were left on the video so we can react to a few of those and just kind of see what people's reactions are. And it really kind of was all over the place. So that was the interesting thing to me. And again, I've got pretty thick skin. So what people have to say or their opinions, they are that. And that's perfectly fine. And I knew that would probably gonna be the case. And yeah, so we'll see. So let's just rip off the band-aid right away, and let's just kind of tackle this guy right here. And this is going to apply to really any and all I guess I'll say the Van Winkle, lineup. I think maybe more than any bourbon or label out there, it's probably the biggest name that the vast majority of people clearly, know. Now, what it is that people have to do and what they have done and what they'll probably continue to do and the prices that they pay, to me, it's probably the number one overrated bourbon out there. And I guess I need to preface by saying the reason I'm going to label it again as overrated is simply because of what I just said. The what you have to do, the amount of money that you're paying for these bottles, generally secondary. Now, again, if you can get some of these things at MSRP, fine. Maybe some of these things are still a little bit pricey, but not, too crazy. But most of these are all going to apply to secondary. And I think oftentimes what you have to do and what people are doing for these things, or maybe they're doing it with, through store lotteries or whatever it is. And unless you're in a controlled state and there's already a particular price that has to be charged, a lot of these places are charging, almost secondary prices for these. So, that was why I kind of like right out of the gate just ripped the band-aid off and kind of went right after, anything Van Winkle. And that has nothing to do ultimately with the the bourbon, in the bottle. Like oftentimes they're really good, maybe sometimes even very good. But to try to equate that to what you're having to pay versus the things that are out there, on the shelves, man, it's a tough pill to swallow for me and to try to somehow justify that. Like if you're going to tell me this bottle is, and again, I don't even know what the secondary price is. I mean, I've probably had this thing in all honesty 10 years. And have clearly never opened it and probably never will, to be honest. I'm sure I'll probably end up selling it or whatever, who knows. But for what this again is, the bourbons that are on the shelves that are a fraction of the price that will, for a 10-year-old bourbon, there are some great ones out there that are a fraction of this price that will rival what's in there every, single day, so that's kind of why I started with the Van Winkle lineup. And that can apply to, the 10, 15, 23, all of them. Anything with Van Winkle on that label is gonna be a hot ticket item that people are gonna do absolutely crazy things for. And it's probably why I guess I would even go out on a limb and say it's my or the number one overrated bourbon that's out there. So let me know your thoughts in the comments. I would love to know, your thoughts on this one. The next one I think is probably what's gonna really maybe fire up some people in terms of it being kind of like overrated. But let me know your thoughts, on the Van Winkle lineup. And I guess for you, value wise, like, I mean, are you okay with secondary prices? Do you not feel that it's overrated? I want to hear from you guys, as to, your thoughts on that, and maybe even throw, something in the comments that, you feel is a vastly overrated, bourbon. And that can be for whatever reasons to you. Again, it's subjective, and that's the fun part of all of this. So, Mr. Ritter, good to see you, buddy. Got to get on that. Gotta get on. Gotta get on. I almost started singing a song there for a second, but got to get on the Bourbon Road podcast. Would love to sit down and have a couple pours and chew the fat a little bit. So, Big Vic, he's the rigster right there. How's it going, buddy? Good to see you, as always, Mr. Paulie P. Good to see you. Thanks for jumping in here tonight. Appreciate it. Your cohort was in here before a little bit, so probably having some dinner or whatever now, maybe taking a nap. I don't know, but we'll see. So anyway, let me know your guys' thoughts on the Van Winkle lineup. It just for me was one of those things that, what people have done and will probably always continue to do. It's kind of crazy. And I would never pay. I think I probably got this thing again 10 years ago, I'm guessing somewhere, give or take a year or so. But I want to say I paid, I don't know, maybe 79 or 69 bucks for that thing then. I don't know. Does that sound about right? I don't even remember. Maybe 89. I don't know. So, Um, Here's a little bit of a hot take. So vastly overrated Elijah Craig barrel proof. Why? Just to go against you. I don't know. I wouldn't go as far as saying overrated on that, even though a quick little tidbit on that, or kind of I've been wondering like what was going on. So far, we have not seen outside of the rye, and I don't know. I haven't heard why this is the case, but we've not seen an A126 Elijah Craig barrel proof bourbon. We have seen the rye, and again, I don't know if that's taking its place or if anybody has heard anything from that standpoint. But yeah, I don't know. I was just curious as to why we have not seen an A126. I have seen some of the other things that Heaven Hill has going on, and I don't know if they've mixed in a few different things along the way, but I don't know. So we'll see. I know my thing with Elijah Craig Barrel Proof was maybe even from that standpoint was to eliminate one of the releases, throughout the year. Maybe just do it twice. Maybe once. I don't know. It was kind of I was curious and never had heard anything about why or if they were not going to release an A126 bourbon. So I don't know. Maybe Todd's got some information or not. So um what else we got here? Yeah, I mean, I guess you could probably go as far as saying that. I mean, I think for a lot of these bottles, Todd, that people are doing the things that they have to do, the money that they're spending for these things. I guess in my opinion, there are so many good bourbons out there that the difference from the monetary value to a bottle that you've paid significantly less for is a smaller gap than the monetary gap. That's my reasoning for, wanting to say, something is overrated or whatever it may be. So that's the issue with that. So that's why I mean, anything Pappy related, you know, um, Van Winkle for the most part. That's why I've got them as overrated. There's not many people who are, in all honesty, getting these things at MSRP, and then what it is you're having to do to get these, you know, is crazy. So that's my small little rant on that. So big, bald, and beautiful. I got to imagine he's there. How's it going, Todd? Good to see you guys. As all, it looks like you and Andy are busier than all get out. So good to see. We need to maybe hook up this year on a little 210 collaboration or something. Let me know what you think on that one. So original Mike. Nobody let's see. I'm assuming rare character. Brook Hill especially is overrated in your opinion. Okay. I had a sample of it. Didn't have a bottle of it, but had a sample of it. Thought it was good, and honestly, I didn't even know what the price of that one was. So I'd be interested. Must be significantly, um, or a little bit more expensive. I'm guessing. So all right, Paul, what do you got? So overrated for me could be expensive stuff that tastes mediocre, super hype stuff that's overpriced and mediocre. Like you said, Pappy, Blanton's, Elmer T. Lee, Weller. Yeah, we're kind of getting down there. So here's one of the other Tuesday night streamers. Good to see you, buddy. Is for for Pappy giveaway. All right, that's kind of nice, man. It looks like things are going really well for Marty these days, doing some Pappy giveaways. It sounds like so. Check him out here tonight. So. Let's see. Yeah, man, I highlighted that one in the video today as well. I mean, it's another one for me that is just really has almost never really hit the marks, and we'll talk about that one in a little while as well. So I don't even have a bottle of it anymore. I had finished it probably years ago and literally never got another one. Never really even tried or attempted to get another one, to be honest. So yeah, there's probably still a lot of that stuff going on, to be honest. You know what I mean? At the end of the day, there's kind of that ceiling for where you're kind of comfortable spending on something before it's just, so crazy, So, anyway, anyway, that was my little rant for the number one overrated bourbon, I guess, in my opinion, is anything with the old Van Winkle label on it. All right, so here's where we're gonna probably make a few people a little bit angry. So cool. Well, maybe let's chat about that. So um oh boy, the old ball buster, he did get the notification. That's a bummer. That's a bummer. So it is unopened, man. I'm never gonna open that thing. And I know what it tastes like. I've had it before several times and have zero intention on ever opening that bottle. That will probably be something like I said, and that I just flip or do whatever. I don't know. We'll see. So legally, of course. All right, so here we go. So this is the one that's going to probably make the most people upset. Not even just this one. Let's just add this one. This one's unopened. That was actually a single barrel pick. I don't even remember where I got that. This one's probably the easiest to find, the cheapest, but again, this can apply to, and again, this was never an intention um to be a Buffalo Trace thing. This was again for me what I appreciate it. This was just a um again, not a Buffalo Trace thing. It's just what seems to be happening and has been happening for years now, from the time that I got into bourbon. This was one of those things that would people were going crazy about. In all honesty, the Special Reserve was probably the one that I heard the most about, like, early on, maybe because it was the most readily available. And this is probably going back to now 20 maybe 2013 or so, somewhere around there, maybe the end of 2012, 2013. And then a couple years later, the boom started to happen and you couldn't even find this. I used to have 175s of these things like all over the place. I got a whole boatload of them one time when I was with my dad years and years ago. That stuff was all over the place down in Kentucky. These two never. I think the Full Proof is, correct me if I'm wrong, a more newer to the lineup. Weller, I think the 107, the antique's been around for a little while, but that one was not a very easy one to find either. So the Weller Special Reserve was the easiest and had a bunch of those old, like, kind of big fat bottom ones. And anyway, they were interesting. Those. So it must have been I'll say this, it must have been designed or a less expensive bottle, because on the 175s they had those plastic tops on them that when you pour them, it was like what you'll see now, like if you pour like a Captain and Coke or something like that, those clugging, like, white plastic, like, things that they have at the end of the bottle. And I don't know. So they all the 175s used to have those things in them. But anyway, um yeah, that was disappointing, man. That was a disappointing Knob Creek um I guess for me. Like, I'm a huge fan of Knob Creek, but man, there was a couple in there that I was not digging. But anyway, so as you can see, this applies to any of the Wellers, and these are just the basic ones here. These are, we're not talking about CYPB or the single barrel. Like, I remember not even that long ago seeing the single barrels going for like $750 or whatever on secondary, and that is absolutely ridiculous in I guess my mind. Same thing with the CYPB, all of that. Paying that kind of money, again, in my opinion, for those bourbons, in terms of what it is you're getting, man, you are buying into all of the hype around that and the FOMO kicking in. Because, again, all of this is going to be my opinion, of course, but what you're getting in terms of overall flavor, the age of the whiskeys that are there, compared to what you either could have gotten even then versus still what you can get now, isn't even remotely close to a return on value in my opinion. And maybe for some people it's not that, So that's also part of it as well. So all right, so what do we here have? So, Jeff, so I don't think Weller Antique is overrated as much as it's overhyped. Now again, I may be using like overrated. I'm using overrated, maybe even as you guys may be saying like overhyped. It's kind of interchangeable a little bit, and I'm kind of applying a lot of that to what it is that you are paying for, the things that you have to do, the difficulty in getting some of those things, thus, why you're having to do some of the things that people are doing. Like, I mean, I don't even know what the antique's even going for anymore. It's been a long time since I even bought these years and years ago, and I maybe spent, I don't know, $40 on it, maybe. Um, this thing was like, I don't know, maybe even $20. I don't know. Um, don't even remember the foolproof. Don't even remember where the hell I got it, to be honest. But um, the Weller lineup, maybe excluding the special reserve, people do ridiculous things for all of that, and that was where I kind of struggled with a little bit of what that stuff was. So, man, this is one of those bottles that if you can get it anytime, like at MSRP, probably for a lot of years, haven't gotten a bottle in a while, but it was always something that I really, really enjoyed. Was always a William LaRue Weller fan. Loved the bottle, but again, that can kind of apply to the things that people do crazy as well. So, all right, Jonathan, there's maybe one of the things I can agree with you on here tonight. So, that's a pretty good response right there. That might be the clip of the night right there. So, touche, touche. Um, he's just overhyped. All right, so let's see what Paul got to say. Passed on entering the Found North Peregrine lottery today was going to be almost $300. Yeah, it's tough. Getting out of hand. Not sure it's overhyped or what I'd call it. Yeah, I mean it's tough, man. When you start getting into that three bills for a whiskey nowadays, it's a kind of a step back and really consider whether or not this is going to be one of those things that are really worth pulling the trigger on, so to speak. So that's tough. So I'm gonna catch back up here a little bit. Okay, so Travis had 59.99 distillery at the distillery in Ohio. I'm assuming you're talking about the 107, 79.99 here in Nashville. Picks up to 120. All right. I mean, I guess, and maybe, I don't know, maybe are they starting to get easier to get? I saw Todd's comment today. We were kind of doing this little text chain or whatever it may be, and I was blown away by what Buffalo Trace Distillery was releasing, and then the fact of them not really even selling out. Like that's pretty crazy in terms of where we are with things these days with some of that stuff, especially I guess I'll say just some of the shelf related stuff. So speaking of all the Weller, I got some 107 in my glass. It's been a while since I've gone to this. So let's give this thing a try. Cheers, everybody! Thanks for joining tonight. I'm competing with everybody else under the sun tonight. I think for the live stream stuff. So cheers, guys. I mean, good, not great. A little caramel apple, some good oak on it actually. Yeah, I mean, it's just I guess kind of average. It's just okay, I guess. It's not bad. It's not a bad bourbon by any means, but I also don't want to spend for a 107. I don't know if I want to spend, $80 or whatever that was. I think I could buy something for a little bit less and be, I don't know, just as satisfied. So, um yeah, it's just one of those things. I would agree. It's just nah, it's good. Do I need to seek this stuff out? And there's still people that go, crazy and buy these things at, I guess, retail. I think like Travis said, I believe like MSRP on these is 49 or 59.99, and people still use these things as trade bait because there's people that just can't get them, and they have to spend 100 bucks just to get some of these things. Foolproof. Man, I don't know. I guess if you see some pics, I haven't seen one in quite some time, and maybe there's still some floating around out there, but it's still kind of crazy what um today's bottle and bond day. What's your favorite one? Oh man. I'll tell you one right off the top of my head. That's probably one of my favorites is the Heaven Hill bottle and bond. Absolutely love that bottle for maybe 45 bucks or so. I'm a fan of oak, and it's one of those things that has probably a little bit more of a oakier profile, but I like those dark, richer, kind of heavier, kind of textured notes in a whiskey. And I think what you get with the Heaven Hill bottle and bond, kind of gives you that great flavor profile for a really, really good price. So there you go. Heaven Hill bottle and bond. Probably the one, if anybody asked me where I would go, I'd say that. And I'll say this is kind of a newer one for me. And even prior to visiting the distillery, when we were at Old Glory, they have a bottle and bond that's absolutely fantastic too. I guess, rich, kind of in that similar-ish kind of profile, to what you get for a bottle and bond for 100 proof bourbon. I think it kind of holds up to a lot of things. So if you haven't checked out Old Glory, do yourself a favor. So I believe they're still labeled as 7 years. Maybe some of the single barrel picks will get up into that, but I still think it's labeled as a 7 year bottle, if I'm not mistaken. Um, all right, Drew. So being close enough to the distillery to buy Antique 107 for 59.99 whenever they have available is honestly one of the favorite bottles at that price. I guess here's the thing. If you're one of the fortunate ones like that, you can get that bottle again for 60 bucks in today's day and age. I mean, I don't think these things are like super aged. I'm guessing probably, I don't know, 6 years old, maybe for something like that. Um, 60 bucks, I guess would probably be still the max I'd want to spend on that. Good proof. I do like the proof point of the 107. So I think at 60 bucks, 50, 60 bucks, you're probably doing, kind of okay. Um, so I'd be kind of okay there. I'm just not gonna, be in that 150 to 200 range, which I've seen some of these things. I know some of the full proofs have been, up there as well. But again, any of these things as just some little easy or daily sipper, fine. But don't anybody do anything crazy for these things. And I would still suggest that you probably should never pay secondary price for any Weller lineup, period. Whatever the MSRP is, fine. Don't go crazy spending double your money on that. There are bottles that are on the shelves that are just as good, if not, better out there. So there you go. So yeah, I mean 50, 60 bucks, you're probably, okay. And you're one of the fortunate ones, I guess, from a Weller standpoint that you're able to get these. I've got to imagine they probably have special reserve far more often than antique. Maybe, I don't know. Maybe not as much anymore, but maybe they're kind of releasing more of the 107. I don't know about the full proof, how often they release many of those, but I just, again, suggestion would be never to spend any kind of secondary price for anything that has, Weller on the lineup. And when you get into those super expensive bottles that they've got, no, man, hard pass. Like I'm not paying $10,000 for any of that stuff. So, um, some of the older non-chill filtered OWAs picks are worth the extra ching. Yeah, I mean, I guess what's that? Like, what's the Ryan? What's the extra? When you say extra, how much are we talking about? For some of those, I don't know what some of those things are going for. And now, like, if you're going to buy one of those older bottles, you're probably going to pay a little bit more of a premium because it is an older bottle. So, if you're spending, $150 on a Weller antique, oh man, I still don't know if I could pay 150 or $200 for one. It might be good, but I'll tell you what, like I'll take um what would I buy? I don't know. Like, I mean, I'm still like a huge like Knob Creek guy. So like even if you get into some of those single barrels and things along those lines for a fraction of the price, I think you're getting a better. Now again, you're not getting a weeder, but man, $200, I just don't know if I'd want to do it. I mean, if the fact that it's an older bottle and non-chill filtered, if that's worth, another 100 or $150 to you, then hey man, it's your money. But I don't know if I could do it. I'd find something else for 150 or $200 that I think I could enjoy more. But again, to each their own. So the Illy Tater bottle I love. Yeah, I mean it's a good bottle, Nick, just not for me for that kind of price. So, and this is the thing. Those two bottles, the OWA and the Weller 12 at $100, first you have to be able to find it, right? And then when people do find it, how many people are able to find it for $100? That's the other part of it as well. So that again, that's why I've got so many of these things lumped into, being overrated, because it's not necessarily the bourbon that's bad. I'm not saying any of these are bad bourbons. I'm just saying what oftentimes, look at all the things that people are kind of rattling off that you have to do to justify why you're willing to spend, between 100 and $200 on a 5 or 6 year old weeded bourbon, because it has Weller on the label is probably a huge part of that, So, I guarantee you, I could dump one of these bottles out and pour some, different bottle of or different, weeder in there, and people would be like, "Oh man, that thing is great." So perception of a label is a huge deal. Um, so you have to appreciate the bourbon. Again, if you do that and you truly like it and you want to spend the money, man, fine. I don't have any problem. I'm not going to tell you that. I'm just saying with some of these things, why my interpretation of overrated is why I feel like that it's that. So, all right. So Tom says I don't love 107, but turns out it does pretty well in blinds for me, so can't hate on too much. And that's the thing. I'm not even hating on the bourbon. Like that's the thing. I mean, I'm not saying it's bad at all. I'm just trying to say, due to that label and what people are willing to spend and what they're willing to do for it, makes it overrated, overhyped, whatever you want to kind of refer to it as. It makes it that. I don't still feel that they're worth, that kind of money, when you've got things like, you know, um I don't know, some of the even the Green River things that are out there. You get some of these 7-year, Green River, picks or bottles or whatever it may be, that are absolutely, fantastic. And, maybe even some of these wheat whiskeys that will compete with some of these wheated bourbons. So there's a lot of alternatives out there. Again, don't get me wrong, guys. This is not anything to do with a particular distillery. This is just, I guess, my view or interpretation of why some of these things are overrated, and most of it has to do with the cost of the bottle, and what people are kind of having to do with some of these things. So, and that's fine. And again, if you like this stuff, fine. Like that's cool. Like I'm not going to tell you what to spend your money on. That's your choice. So if you like it, just like anything, if things that people like and want, they're going to have a tendency to spend a little bit more or do some crazy things. Um, but again, my interpretation of what people do for these things is nuts. So, I mean, yeah, like this little 107 is decent. To me, is it really any better than, let's say, the new Green River Full Proof? Nope. And that thing is 100 and what, 109.3, so very similar in proof. That's going to be way more readily available than the Weller 107. Will it do really well? I don't know. Maybe that would be a fun video to do, and just do kind of a comparison of the two. So we'll see. Maybe, yeah, maybe I'll do that. I haven't seen a bottle. This was just a media sample of the new Full Proof, but yeah, and that one's only bottled at like 109.3 proof. So again, very similar, but it would be kind of a fun little head to head for those two. So all right, so let's move on to one of the others. Now, the other one I had in there, Todd Ritter had mentioned it before, was the from Old Forester, the birthday bourbon. We won't spend much time on this, but I think for what you're getting, oftentimes, let's just call it 10 years. It's one of those things, and I thought the MSRP on the birthday bourbon, if I'm not mistaken, again, is like $300. Am I way off on that? I don't know if I'm even right on that. It's been a long time since I bought a birthday bourbon, but in having it a few times, I thought it was good. But what people have had to do for the birthday bourbons in spending days down on Whiskey Row in downtown Louisville, intense, and the amount of time, and that part's cool. Like that was one of the things that back in the day I would do some of those things like that. And honestly, I had more fun with that part of it, and being able to just meet different people and do all of that. That was pretty awesome. Doing it for again, let's just call it a 10-year-old, bourbon, from Old Forester, as good as it may have been, and they have been pretty good. There have been some that haven't been as good. But again, when you start talking about, the overrated aspect of it, that's kind of where I got into, again, for what it is people are willing to spend, six, seven, $800, maybe even more for some of the older ones, some of the birthday bourbons. you know, you probably can buy a 1920 and be very close, to what you might get profile wise from a birthday bourbon. You may not be too far off, and that's going to set you back what, $65. Um, maybe you get a little bit more, but again, when you start comparing the two in terms of value, let's just say, $200-300 for a birthday bourbon, all the things you have to do. You can go to the grocery store or your liquor store and get a 1920 for $65 and probably be, at the end of the day, just as happy or satisfied with that one. So again, that was my small rant on birthday bourbon and why that was, I guess, kind of, overrated in my opinion, because of really what people have done and still have to kind of do for that. I mean, everybody I know enters these lotteries through Old Forester in 1924. Good call out right there. But again, it's a little bit pricier for the most part as well. 1910, really good kind of double oaked bourbon. Really like that. Lower proof, what 93 proof, I believe it is, but love the profile of it. And really, if you kind of do more of a comparison with some of the birthday bourbons in the past in terms of proof, they may be very close to what some of the 1910s were. Um, and you're getting a pretty heavy, rich profile from the 1910. So, again, you're not too far off. And I don't know, maybe even if you mix the 1910 and the 1920 together, man, you might get really close to what a lot of the overall flavor profiles of birthday bourbons have been. So, I don't know. I guess we'll see what happens there. So, um let's do this. So here's what I want to do. So we're about 40 minutes in, and here was again the reason I wanted to do tonight's live stream and kind of go over some of this was I knew I was going to get some comments on the video, and I did. So let's kind of go through a few of these. You guys will be able to see these for yourselves, but this just gives you again a perspective of people kind of defending their brands, their brand loyalty, whatever it may be. So here was one of them, and most of these were all going to apply to, for the most part, the Weller lineup. It's probably the most readily available of all of these, but here was one of them. It said so everything Buffalo Trace basically is overhyped. I will say more allocated offerings are great. If you can get them from MSRP, BTAC, Taylor, single barrel, or barrel proof, etc. But good luck with that. Gets very irritating listening to people that think Blanton's is the pinnacle of bourbon. The average consumer is woefully misinformed. And again, that is just it's an opinion, and I appreciate everybody who leaves comments, and they're all public comments, so everybody can see these. I'm not like just sharing these that somebody said don't, but that was kind of an interesting perspective. And let's see, where was one of the other ones here? This was kind of interesting as well. So this gentleman didn't really appreciate me being critical, but anyways, is very critical of how people spend their money. That was me, I guess, within the video, kind of telling people apparently how they should spend their money. Buffalo Trace doesn't charge outrageous prices. The open market creates those prices. Fair enough. There's nothing that he hasn't said so far that has been wrong, other than me telling people how to spend their money, which I'm not. Who are you to tell me about what to like? Wasn't doing that whatsoever. So this was the issue. Since when is price the driving indicator of value? I mean, that is the indicator. That is the driving indicator of value. So what I appreciate as a good value, you may not. Fair enough. And that is 100% accurate. And I would never tell anybody, what to spend their money on. That's your choice. And that was just one of the comments. I wasn't telling anybody that it's bad bourbon, that it's necessarily overpriced. Again, if it's not to you, fine. I was just being critical of the things that people have to do for these bourbons that to me make them overrated, overhyped, whatever you want to kind of refer to it as. So when people leave comments, which I appreciate, it's just one of those things that, again, that's their opinion. So there's one other one coming up that I clearly had touched the nerve. It was pretty interesting. Sometimes there will be a few that get to be crazy that I just ultimately delete. Some people take bourbon, whiskey, whatever it may be, a little bit too serious. And none of it should ever be that. But it was kind of interesting. So let me see if I think this might be it here. This is all right. Digest this for a second. So, this was the funny one. Again, I appreciate his comment and watching the video and all that, but for his response of, are you out of your continuous mind? Basically calling me crazy. So adjust my attitude. So I clearly need an attitude adjustment. Maybe my wife will agree with that. But Buffalo Trace does produce the best bourbon. So they, according to him, they are the best. That's fine. Your controversy is superfluous. Okay. Weller's, the Colonel E.H. Taylor, Buffalo Trace Gold. I guess, whatever. All store picks. Quit hating for likes. I had touched a nerve, clearly. So this was clearly a fan of Buffalo Trace. And again, as much as I appreciate that, again, that's all it's all subjective. And it is one of those things that man, to each their own. I'm never going to tell anybody what to like. It's why I do most of anytime I'm doing blind tastings or doing tastings, I'm doing them blind, and that's to eliminate any label bias, cost of the bottle, so that when you're tasting those whiskeys, same thing for doing barrel picks, not wanting to know age, proof, any of that. You want to tackle the bourbon or the rye, whatever the whiskey may be on its own. You interpret whatever that is. But to not be, I guess, aware of what some people are doing and paying for these things, I mean, that's kind of just burying your head in the sand a little bit. Like, if I'd still argue with the person that pays, let's just say, $600 for a Weller single barrel. I'd still say you're probably crazy in terms of what it is you're getting for your $600. Now, again, you may really, really like that, and that's cool. That's fine. But I feel like I could give that person another bourbon that was close to the same proof, probably very close in age, and they would be as satisfied not knowing what I was giving them or not knowing that they were even drinking a Weller single barrel, and they'd probably be okay with what I would give them, and probably, in all honesty, save them 550 or $520, whatever it may be. So that's just the interpretation of that. So it is what it is. So, and I appreciate everyone's opinions and comments and all of that. And again, I wouldn't share these if these were not just public comments, but anybody can go on the video and look at some of these things. But that guy thought I was out of my continuous mind. So, which I don't know if I've ever heard anybody say you're out of your continuous mind, but interesting perspective on that. So yes, exactly. A continuous mind. Maybe. I don't know, Paul. You never know. So guys, Todd, why would that not surprise me? I bet there's probably a good chance, and maybe Todd's even being serious right now. If he is, man, have that guy, give him my number. I'm happy to talk to him. I back him off the ledge a little bit too, for crying out loud. So it's like lighten up, Francis. Is just bourbon, man. Drew says, it's so funny how worked up people get. Tell me about it, man. When you make these videos and throw yourself out there, you gotta be a little thick skinned. You'll get some amazing comments at times. So everyone has their own palate. It's so subjective. That's why there's an unknown and varieties of bourbon. And that's exactly it. And again, what I taste, all of these things in giving people tasting notes and all that, again, it's our interpretation. You get used to tasting certain things and pulling flavors, or certain things pop up, while you're tasting stuff. And that's just kind of what it is that you get. And we become guides. That's really all it is. So if there are people out there that appreciate someone's palate, then you can follow that person more, because there are certain things with certain distilleries that people do get, some don't get it. So that's kind of where all of that matters. So um man, it's like every day there's so many factors that play into what it is you're going to taste and why and all of that. That's 100% correct. Why I need more bottles. Um let's see. So Buffalo Trace has four mash bills. The juices all in those is for age and rickhouse makes it different, but it's the same juice. Yeah, I mean, it's kind of, a lot of it is, you can have the same mash. You could have one mash bill that are aging in different rick houses, different areas, some higher, some lower, some hotter, some colder, and you're going to get all kinds of different, profiles. So, and that's only four. You could literally have one mash bill and create a bunch of different flavor profiles based on just a few different things. So, man, it's exactly it. Like my wife says, you pay for what you get. That is very true. That is very true. So, um, maybe my conscious, maybe I don't know. Maybe he thought I was unconscious. I don't know. Couldn't agree with you more. I'm a big fan of it. Actually, I just got one the other day, which was their new label. Not that it changed the bourbon or anything, but I'm a big fan of their bottle and bond as well. So yes. Oh boy. All right. So we touched on the Weller. Let's see what time it is. So I'm gonna do a Patreon only live stream, maybe the next 30 minutes or so. I've got it set for like 9:30 Eastern, but probably end up doing it a little bit sooner. But all right, let's get rid of those. We don't need to be pissing any more Weller fans off tonight. So that's we'll wrap that one up. So it's let's see. So man, it's a good way to put it. I mean, it's still a lot of that. There's still maybe a little bit less of it than there were, maybe a few years ago, but there's still a lot of that stuff. So all right, we'll do this one quick. This one might be a little bit more, I don't know, controversial a little bit. You guys can let me know, your thoughts on that one. I'm gonna pour this. This is actually an 0416 bottle. So an old one, probably a lot of people in the chat tonight or whatever it may be, maybe weren't even into to bourbon when this bottle was released. But anyway, this is the 0416, and this one was the Bluegill Creek batch. So not sure if anybody has ever had that or seen it or whatever, but we're gonna kind of dive into it, see what it's like. Man, I've had this thing in a box down in the basement, the actual Booker's box for clearly years. So anyway, yeah, let me know your thoughts on the Bookers. Do you feel that this is also an overrated one? And this was where I kind of got into and felt that it was overrated from the standpoint of I had a hard time spending roughly $100 on on this bottle, knowing what I could get generally from like a really good Knob Creek bottle, even if it was the Knob Creek single barrel 120 proof for 55 or $60, or even the 9 year 100 proof Knob Creek. I felt it was a more rounded out bourbon overall than what you get from a lot of the Bookers. I've always found a lot of the Bookers to just be very hot. And for me, when you start to focus a little bit too much or a little bit heavy on just the hotness of it, not necessarily the Kentucky hug or anything, but more of a gasoline type of feel, That was never something that I've enjoyed in a whiskey, period. I just don't want that ethanol kind of flavor or burn from a whiskey. I don't mind heat sometimes, but when you get that ethanol kind of burn, that was never something that I've enjoyed very often. And that's what I got far too much of from a lot of the Bookers. Now, I mean, I've had some samples of more recent ones and was kind of okay with it. I just wasn't necessarily okay having to spend $100 on that bottle, knowing what I could roughly get for from like a really good, Knob Creek bottle. So that was why I threw, Booker's, on there as overrated. And a lot of times, you're starting to see Marty had thrown, let me throw this up here. I think this is it. Yeah, you kind of had to readjust here a little bit, but all Bookers just went on sale here for 69 bucks, so you can see, man, these things are kind of sitting now. People are not willing to necessarily spend $100 on the Bookers anymore. And you're going to start to see some of these prices, maybe drop a little bit with some of that stuff. Maybe a bottle like that with Beam putting out a bunch of things. I I don't know. It's just one of those things where maybe it's just preference. Me spending $100 on a Booker's versus even like, when you could get like I don't know, just a really good, Knob Creek, even some of the older single barrels, like they were fantastic. They just drank way more refined ever than what I would get from a Booker's. So that was why I had Booker's as an overrated bourbon. So yeah, probably fair. I mean, I think that's probably where a lot of those are. I mean, as many as those used to get, released every year. I don't know what the amount of releases are with the Bookers anymore. Are they still doing like several batches a year? I thought it was 4 at one point. I don't know if they're doing it or not anymore, but um I don't know. So yeah, I don't know if I'll be able to sign off. Maybe if Julie's watching, she'll bring the little guy in here or something. We'll see. Maybe I can sign off on with him tonight. He's getting big, I'm telling you, John. Um because of the box. Not necessarily because of the box. I don't know. I'm fine with the box, but so let's see, Taba. So got several bottles of Bookers in the house. Didn't say I'm a fan, but I do enjoy them. All right, and that's fine. I mean, if you guys enjoy whatever any of these are, and you're willing to spend whatever that is, man, more power to you. I'm not going to tell you to not spend your money or whatever. So, but oh jeez, oh look at this guy. He just happens to have. Looks like he's bringing a special delivery. Look at he's got. Hang on, buddy. Look at this. Look at this guy. Even this guy's got his little bottle of his little bottle of Blanton's necklace. Look at this. Look at this guy. What a show off. All right, go see mom. All right, go see mom. I know the thing's probably heavy for you anyway. Oh my lord. So anyway, but all right, the final one before we wrap her up and get over to Patreon for the live, we'll do a little some of the Russells taste through tonight. I know Jason did some stuff last night, which I didn't see he was doing that until late. Actually, it was either late or this morning, one of the two. But he's been eating good in the neighborhood. Yes, he has. He's an interesting eater. Let's just call it that. So, but what's up, Adam? Good to see you, buddy. Booker's just sitting on the shelves in Ohio now. Yeah, that's the thing, man. This is just the way a lot of them are. There are a lot of stores around me that aren't even carrying it anymore. There were old batches that were sitting up there that they would even mark down and never could even get rid of the things. And eventually, I don't know if they sold or they just completely pulled them. I don't know. So, but I see you'll take Rare Breed or the 120 than buy the Bookers. And I probably couldn't agree with you more. So yes, he's getting big. We think he's just gonna keep getting bigger. So Um, that's a good one. I didn't think of that one, Paul. So maybe his will, maybe I'll have to check and see if his is a B. If not, maybe I need to get him one. So, not that I'd let him walk around with a freaking Blanton's horsey top thing on. That'd be ridiculous. But all right, let's see what a 16, bourbon from 2016 is still tasting like at this point. I mean, it definitely has the old classic. Booker's a little bit of a kind of a nuttiness, or is that kind of caramel, I don't know, this like maple, peanutty, chocolate covered peanuts with some caramel, something along those lines. Good. But man, when you get into some of that heavy peanutty kind of flavor, which oftentimes you're not getting a lot of that from a lot of the Knob Creeks, maybe Knob Creek was, or excuse me, maybe some of the Bookers was just not my favorite profile for the most part. But I don't know. We'll see. So thanks, brother. Man, yeah, if you guys can do me a favor, either now or on your way out, hit the thumbs up button. I greatly appreciate it. Helps for I don't know, all the YouTube algorithm stuff and all of that. So, but yeah, appreciate everybody watching the videos, and everything means a lot to me. So thank you. All right, so here's the last one. You guys can imagine following all that stuff up. Here we go. We got the old we got the old horsey top guy right here. So, this was probably, here was my reason for it being an overrated bourbon. Is, let me back up a little bit. This is one of those things that I feel like everybody who was either getting into bourbon or is about ready to get into bourbon needs to have, maybe in their collection, or try it. I think everybody needs to just buy at some point a bottle of Blanton's, because you need to know what that thing tastes like for what it is that you were willing to do for that bottle. And it was just crazy. I mean, still the things that people will want to do for Blanton's, and the amount of people that ask, or you tell somebody you got a bottle of Blanton's, their eyes light up. I mean, it's crazy. I mean, I've brought these things to some parties before with people that aren't, all, as into, bourbon or whiskey as we all are, and they see that bottle, and you may have, they you're looked at like you're some kind of king or something when you bring that bottle. And I remember pouring it, and they're like, "Man, are you sure you want to pour that thing for everybody?" And I'm like, "Yeah, man, I really don't care. It's it's good, but if you guys enjoy it, you guys can feed into all the hype and everything about it." That was kind of the fun part for me. I mean, it was kind of fun and a little bit I don't know, there was just something rewarding about watching people kind of go a little bit crazy for what this was. I mean, you're talking about a 93 proof single barrel, and not that it's bad. Like, it's a good little bottle. Good little bourbon. It's kind of one of those things where if you could get this all the time, as like a daily sipper, fine, man. A little easy drinking bourbon. Man, it's just what people think of about this bourbon, and what it's gonna taste like. It's like once people get into it, you just never hear much about it again. Like, I think people feel like when you open the bottle, like it's gonna come with fireworks and all kinds of things like that, and taste like unicorn tears or whatever the hell their interpretation is. Um, it's crazy, but in my opinion, everybody should probably buy at some point a bottle of Blanton's, so that it's a great like gateway to get you into understanding a little bit more about bourbon. And maybe if you've spent $100, maybe even a little bit more, it lets you understand now where you need to kind of go. It becomes a great like guide of where you're going to take, your bourbon journey, so to speak. And you can then go from there. Now you've had in your mind what was supposed to be a great whiskey, and now whatever your interpretation of that is, now is the bar set higher, lower, whatever it may be, you kind of know where to go from there. So um 100%. And that's the thing. They make these things easy to drink. Very easy to drink. So and Drew, I would agree with you 100%. I think when you start getting into the Blanton's Gold and the straight from the barrel, you're getting different Blantons. And again, I'm just kind of keeping this at that. And here's what I'll also say. I still think with Blanton's Gold, and there are websites you can go on right now and still buy those things, and they're relatively affordable. So they're not, huge markups on some of these things, but I think what you're getting with like Blanton's Gold, what is the proof on it? Like 101 or something like that. I forget what it was on the Blanton's Gold, but obviously straight from the barrel, you're getting some big heavy proofs on that. But again, a good mash bill, a good profile, not necessarily going to break the bank, not that they're easy to just walk into a store or a liquor store and get any of these things, but they're still very, very good bottles at, I'll say, a decent price point. I don't think you're going to kind of get, um, raked over the coals or anything like that with those. But still a good profile on those for the most part. So, all right, Henry, what do you got? So everyone's Tater Unicorn bottle. You can buy 10 cases of the bottle in just about any big store in Memphis for $90 a bottle. And that's fine, man. If you can get a bottle, one bottle, let's just say, bottle of Bland's go in. If you can get one for $90, you're out the door for with taxes and everything for less than $100. You now have a benchmark, and you now have something set on where you're going to take, you know, your journey on what your expectation is for this, and what it's going to kind of lead you in a particular direction, all based off of, what your expectations were for this. So 103 proof. Yeah. Okay. All right. I knew it was somewhere right around there. So, and it's a very good bottle. I mean, I've got a couple of them downstairs, one really old one actually, but not too bad. So there you go, Jeff. So yeah, man, if you can get one for, $80, again, you're not having to do anything super crazy for it. And I would really, it's a good, like, easy sipping bourbon. If you're somebody that doesn't like a bunch of heavy proof, and it's just an easier, lighter bourbon, at 93 proof single barrel, you're getting something a little bit more kind of unique. Cool bottle. Again, you've got the bottle effect. It's just one of those things. So I think, again, like I said, it's a bottle that everybody needs to have, just to kind of set a bar for where you're going to kind of take your whiskey journey or bourbon journey for the most part. Um, so anyway, guys, there it is. So hey, if you haven't checked out the video, I'd appreciate it. Leave a comment there. Let me know if you kind of listened to tonight's live stream, or watched the live stream back and you saw the video. I know I linked it uh, in the live for tonight. So if anybody wants to check it out, you're more than welcome. But that was the reason for doing tonight's live stream, was to kind of just get a little bit of this also, out there, and just kind of chat a little bit more for, about what my interpretation of overrated really was, and what that kind of meant to me. And again, it's never saying that the whiskey within the bottle is bad. My interpretation was just what people were having to do and the money that they were spending versus what some alternatives were. So anyway, guys, thanks for watching tonight, hanging out for a little while. Hey, if you're a patron, I'll drop in Patreon here in a couple minutes. the link for tonight's live stream only. If you're not and you still want to even join, you can as a paid member or even a free member. It will be linked for tonight's for both categories. So I'm not doing it just for paid. If you guys want to join, would love to have you as part of the part of the club. I think we run maybe the best whiskey club going. I'm biased, of course, but I think we work hard on getting some absolutely amazing whiskeys, and I think a lot of people are oftentimes pretty happy with what we get for everybody. So we'll be talking a little bit more about some upcoming things, our Russells that we're going to be releasing on Friday. Then we'll be talking about a lot of things. But outside of that, thanks guys for hanging out with me for a little over an hour tonight. Greatly appreciate it. Thought it was a fun topic and all of that. So again, thanks guys for hanging out tonight. Some of you guys I will see in maybe another 10, 15 minutes over on Patreon. So with that being said, cheers guys. And as always, it's about the journey and not the destination. Cheers guys. Have a great night. Hopefully I'll see some of you over on the Patreon live. Have a good night. Cheers guys.